Coming game over. Warning, incoming game over.
When the cat's away, the rats will play. And the Cats put this one away tonight. In second overtime, it's super pest Brad Marchand who propels the Panthers over the Edmonton Oilers by a final score of 5-4. Hello and welcome. My name's Conrad Krausert. As you can tell, I'm one of the hosts of Game Over Calgary, but filling in tonight because we've had a couple tech difficulties up in Edmonton. But you know what? Incredible game of hockey played north on the QE2 today. And I don't think anyone can be upset about what they saw. Well, I can be upset about my background and you saw that. But you know what? Let's talk about, all in all, what an amazing game took place here tonight. Because I don't think there's anyone that will doubt that was one of the best hockey games we've had in a while. Even better than game one, in my opinion. Of course, as they say in the land of football, there was a lot of, as they say, shithousery. And we'll get into that. But all in all, a fantastic hockey game took place in Edmonton. Once again, hello and welcome to the Game Over Network. My name is Conrad Krausert. And this is Game Over. If this is your first time tuning in, thank you for joining us. If this is a return, welcome back. As I try and find all my ads, because it's been a while here for us here on Game Over Calgary. Obviously, our season ended prematurely, so I don't have any of my regular stuff ready to go. Of course, it's not here either. All right, let's see. Anyways, you know what, let's just go without it. Not prepared as much as I thought I was, but hey, you know, is what it is. If you're coming to bash the Oilers, don't do it. If you're coming to bash the Panthers, I'm on the Game Over Edmonton page, so I'm not going to say don't do it. But I don't think either fan base can bash the other team. You can maybe bash some individual players now that we're playing tonight. We will get to that. I promise. But one of the best displays of hockey. You know, I was listening to a lot of sports media over the last few weeks. And NBA president Donald Stern was, or not Donald Stern, Adam Silver was talking about, hey, doesn't matter that it's two small markets playing. Doesn't matter who's playing, as long as it's the best two basketball teams. That's what NBA fans should tune in for. I think that's what we got tonight. Forgive me for mentioning Donald Sterling. Oh my God, it's been a long day. And it's warm in my office. But yeah, this was truly one of the best examples of playoff hockey I think you can get. Now, is that truly what the game of hockey should be or is when it's at its best? I don't necessarily think so. But it's what we got. And hey, I think we can be pretty happy with what we saw. In general. Oh, and I found my ad reads. So we'll get to that later. But it's been certainly a series to watch, even if you're a neutral observer like me. And as I'm sure Adam Firebearer will say, not truly a neutral, you're from Calgary. Regardless, leave that at the door. It's been truly, in my opinion, one of the most incredible seasons or ends to the season I've seen. But let's break this down event by event. We'll go through it here when we... Oh my God. I apologize, folks. You're not seeing all the tech difficulties I'm having today. But we'll get through it. Oh boy. So let's go through it event by event, like I said. We'll start off power play goal as sitting in the box. I think that was the Evander Kane penalty. That was just at the tail end of it. Yes, it was. You saw former Calgary Flames Sam Bennett pot one home. And boy, oh boy, he's been having a hell of a series. Hell of a playoffs. But I don't think this will be the only time we mention Mr. Sam Bennett, as he scored only 2 minutes and 7 seconds in. Takes advantage of the 5-on-4. Cats are up 1. Didn't last long, as Evander Kane, as I said, was in the box for the first goal. Makes up for it. After kind of a broken play, ping-ponging the puck through neutral. Kind of bounces off of Victor Arvidsson, off towards Evander Kane, and what a shot! Off the far post, off the near post, and in. That's why you kept him on your roster all year. That's why he's not on LTIR right now. When Evander Kane is healthy, he is a hell of a hockey player. Now, is he a great person? I'm not even going to touch that with a 79.5-foot pole. But that is elite skill. And albeit Evander Kane, they said numerous surgeries. Nobody really knows what's wrong with Evander Kane. I don't think. But when you can get that shot into the lineup as you're signing during the playoffs, that's why you did it, folks. 6 goals in the playoffs. Arvidsson with his 5th assist. And Evan Bouchard, I didn't know this, 13 assists. I'm just remembering being on social media around the trade deadline, and people were talking about trading Bouchard and how serious that those trade arguments were. I'll let you make your mind up on that. But it was out there. There were rumors. And smoke doesn't come from nothing, folks. Speaking of smoke, big shout out and our thoughts with the people of northern Manitoba, northern Saskatchewan, and northern Alberta. Hopefully everyone's doing all right. Hopefully the winds travel in the direction you need them to, and hopefully you can get those fires handled in the northern parts of our prairie provinces. I digress. But Evan Bouchard wasn't done, not by a long shot. He had a couple other contributions today, but just takes a good opportunity on the 4-on-4, follows up 97, and I don't think there's many players you want to follow up. Takes this first shot, it's blocked off a leg, rebound comes right to him, and Bouchard fires it home. Assist to McDavid and Draisaitl, 4-on-4. The Oilers have the lead. Didn't last very long, but we had a back and forth first period as Seth Jones gets his 4th of the playoffs. Just kind of a soft play along the boards by the Oilers, and just kind of lose Seth Jones in the mix. He pinches in off the point and is all alone. Had nothing but 6x4 behind Stuart Skinner. Assists to Luosterainen and Nate Schmidt. That's not a guy you generally can lose. He's a pretty big man, and I was going to say with a pretty big contract, but not paying for it all in Florida. Regardless, tied it 2. I thought that's how we were going to leave the frame. But a minute later, Leon Draisaitl on the power play, as it was the Sam Bennett penalty that led to the goal. It was Leon from McDavid, and I don't know how you can give Leon Draisaitl that much space before and when he went in down the slot to take that shot. But boy, oh boy, you can't really allocate additional manpower, because if you want to double cover Connor and you want to double cover Leon, then Bouchard's just going to fire it home. Connor McDavid, 24th assist. Evan Bouchard, 14th assist. 5 goals in the first 20 minutes of this game. But in the second period, the ice certainly did tilt back in the direction of the Cats. Just some good zone play had the Oilers kind of chasing their tails. And I gotta say, wasn't the best shot to beat Skinner. But sometimes that happens. It's hockey. And he had, obviously, Sam Bennett kind of flew the zone. Matt Tkachuk standing in front. Those guys are hard to move. They're hard to ignore. Assists to Carter Verhaeghe and Seth Jones on the play. And then the Rat King himself decides to get involved in the action. A breakaway pass that he makes no mistake and beats Stuart Skinner. And obviously just feel absolutely terrible for Nuge, as he was the one that was dispossessed at the point, and then they get it around Bouchard and finds the twine. So this goes to Anton Lundell. Good job just kind of bananaing that pass around Bouchard. And that is the one criticism you can probably make about this Oilers power play, is if a puck gets around those all 4 offensive players, what do you expect to do? I guess the most defensive guy out on the ice on that power play is probably Nuge. No offense to Evan Bouchard, but Nuge is probably the best two-way player out there. And he was the one who lost the puck along the boards. Florida up 4-3. And that is the way it would remain until 18 seconds remain in the third period. And we've had goals from Sam Bennett. We've had goals from the Rat King Brad Marchand. Let's add another super pest to the mix. Corey Perry with his 8th goal of the playoffs. Net empty for the Oilers, and you're not going to move Corey Perry from his spot in front of the net very easily. And the fact that he could just kind of glide through the hash marks, slot that one home to take us to extra time. It's what you bring in Corey Perry for. It's what you've had him on the roster all year for. His 8th of the playoffs. As I said, assists to Wallman and Connor McJesus. First overtime solves nada. And honestly, probably maybe the worst period we've seen in this entire series. Kind of just back and forth, icing it repeatedly. Obviously, you've played 80 minutes in game 1. Well, not quite 80, but you catch my drift. And then you play another 60 and you're back into overtime. Maybe that's to be expected. But then it's more of that to start the second overtime period. And then Brad Marchand gets in behind the defense after a turnover by the Oilers. Just bad shot. Draisaitl looks like he kind of gets a little slow to the long change. And Brad Marchand, king of the Rats, sends it back to Florida, earning the Florida Panthers a split out of Edmonton. And this was a heavyweight bout, ladies and gentlemen. And I'm not just talking about the punches that were thrown all over the ice, because let's check again what the penalty times were. I had it in my brain. Don't have it now. 16 penalty minutes for the Cats from Florida. And then from the Oilers, 12 penalty minutes. You know, it's playoff hockey, ladies and gentlemen. But we'll talk about the Pests and their role in the next period. Because obviously, as I said, they all got on the score sheet today, but their influence was much more than that. Because we saw penalties missed both ways. We saw Aaron Ekblad block a shot in period number 5 of today's game and barely get to the bench, and the Oilers-Rogers commentary said that, you know, it should have been a straight-up penalty call. Ekblad gets over the boards, and I can't remember. Let me double-check here, because I don't know numbers on this squad for the Panthers. I believe it might have been Luosterainen. No, it wouldn't have been Luosterainen. I think it was Kulikov who had jumped over the boards and affected the path of the Oilers on rushing Victor Arvidsson. Is that a penalty you really want to decide a potential Stanley Cup? I don't think so. There was some penalties missed with, I thought, at the end of the period. Let me pull up my chat here once again with Ash, who unfortunately, she went to the watch party. We were supposed to have her on, couldn't get it to actually work. But, you know, Ash, enjoy your time, because I know she didn't get to the moss pit, because I heard the moss pit filled up huge early. So she got to the fan park, but they apparently weren't allowing bags in, so a lot of her gear wasn't allowed to come in with her. Supposed to have her join and get some opinions from around the fan park, but didn't work. We'll know for next time. Big shout out to Ash. Where is this comment I chalked about here? It was the headshot. On Klingberg, where Klingberg steps out of the way of the hit. Some people thought he got headshot at the end of the second period. And then he grabs onto the Florida player who hit him. I can't remember. I think that was also Luosterainen, maybe. And starts giving the rabbit punches, so that probably should have been very least an interference, possibly a roughing. But, you know, missed calls either way. And if you're a hockey fan, you've seen what the officials have been like for the majority of the playoffs. I don't think the refs wanted to decide this one, and I'm not going to say they were great. I will say they were adequate. I don't know if chat's going to disagree with me on that. But, you know, I thought the reffing was okay in today's game. Didn't decide it. But let's get into period number 2 here, hockey fans, wherever you may be today. If you're joining us from down in the Florida Keys, welcome. Welcome to Game Over. Joining from Edmonton, I see you. I was cheering for you at points, but hey, you're coming away with the series split at home, and we'll talk about that and what it could mean heading down to Florida. But here in period number 2, we're going to talk about the super pests that are in this series. Obviously, today we saw Stuart Skinner having to deal with former Calgary Flame Sam Bennett standing right on the top of the blue paint and falling into him and onto him in the first period. Gets the goaltender interference, leads to an Oilers goal. But did it lead to something more? Because the Denim Man, that's my housemate, ladies and gentlemen, he's kind of an Oilers fan. We'll talk about that, I'm sure. But he said, is this Dwayne Rollison 2.0? Is the goaltender getting injured going to decide this series? Because if we remember back to the Oilers facing the Carolina Hurricanes, Dwayne Rollison's injury essentially was the death knell for the Oilers back in 2004. Actually, I can't even remember who was backing up Dwayne Rollison in that series. Ty Conklin. Oh, that's a name I haven't thought of in an age. But yeah. As it was 06. 04 was our playoff run. Anyways, like, would we have had to see more minutes for Captain Picard, who Captain Picard's been great. Or I guess it's Pickard. I'm going to call him Captain Picard because see Picard. Anyways, he has been good, not great through the playoffs, but I think your chances are better with the duality of man that is seen in Stuart Skinner. Because even though we allowed 5 tonight, don't think you pin that one on your goaltender. But then, obviously, we saw Corey Perry starting to stir it up. And, like, let's keep in mind that Corey Perry has a few more miles on the tires, so shall we say, in getting under people's skin, and probably has a few ways to do it without crashing into goaltenders. I saw him give a couple slashes and stick work, and a couple of very expensive pieces of carbon fiber were no longer in one piece when Corey Perry was in the area code. But that's a battle of two pests, and obviously maybe the best to do it in the NHL. I hear cries of Tom Wilson coming from the direction of Washington, or Matt Rempe coming from New York. But there's, like, let's be real. There's a reason Brad Marchand is known as the King of the Rats. Whether that's licking players in playoff series to get under their skin, or whether it's poking fun at Oilers fans, or whether it's scoring 2 goals to earn a series split, both on breakaways. King of the Rat, man. Is this the era where we see the return of the pest? Not the return of the goon, but the return of that guy you love to have on your team, but hate to see on the roster against you. And hey, we didn't even mention Matthew Tkachuk, who I've seen numerous no turtle signs in the fans, or in the stands for. Is this, because everyone's talking about the model that the Flames and other teams need to use to rebuild. Whether it's the Dallas model or the Lightning model I've heard thrown around. Maybe it's time to learn from the Florida Panthers and say, we need to build a team that's good enough to get us through the regular season into a spot. But as soon as those rules change, because everybody who's a hockey fan knows they do, as soon as those rules change, we are going to be world beaters. Because we've seen this work before. And I'm sorry for our friends out in Vancouver. That's what the Boston Bruins were for a long time. They were good, but I wouldn't say they were great. But as soon as the playoffs come around, they were unstoppable. By hook or by crook. And it's a combination of skill and skies that's incredibly difficult, and it's knowing where the line is. Because guys like Matt Tkachuk Sam Bennett and Brad Marchand know where that line is, and hey, they may have their skate blades all the way over the front of that line, but they know where it is and know how to trample right on it when the playoffs start. And hey, there's a lot of other guys on that team that are gritty, that are getting in your face, and are grinding you down. And boy, oh boy, does Seth Jones look like an absolute steal from them from that trade deadline. A +3 on the night today. Dmitry Kulikov, not fun to play against, +2 in his 23 minutes of time on the ice today. Matt Tkachuk, good for 4 penalty minutes, didn't show up on the score sheet in his 22 minutes. Maybe it's time to discuss. Is it time to get the goons into the retirement homes? But time to fire your Orkin mans. Is the age of the pest upon us? I think this game certainly shows it. Bradley scores timely goals a lot from Adam Firebear. Brad Marchand certainly knows when the days get warmer that he needs to heat his play up on the ice. I certainly will agree with you there. And then we'll come back to the Edmonton side of this. Boy, do you wish you had Zach Hyman. I'll say this. I am not a believer that the NHL or a Stanley Cup can be altered by a single player. But boy, oh boy, did the Oilers miss that big body. Somebody who can come in, back check, and move Matthew Tkachuk out of the front. Because, boy, he seemed to be real comfortable with Darnell Nurse, Evan Bouchard, even Matthias Ekholm. He didn't seem to be moving that far with those guys. But if you have that F3 or F2 coming down, getting some speed to come back in the back check, assist and moving, I think it's a different series. As well, being able to be another pest to get under the skin. Not that he's necessarily the biggest talker or going to be the one who wins it with the gift of the gab. But for him to stand on top of Bob's crease and say, good luck moving me, who knows? And we mentioned this briefly when I was talking about how good this Oilers team performed in this heavyweight battle. But boy, oh boy, I hate the fact that you guys have Evan Bouchard. Yeah, we got Zane Parekh, who looks like he's going to be very good down here in Calgary. Yeah, Hunter Brustevich, he's going to be a good piece. I don't think either of them has the individual offensive talents that Evan Bouchard has. He has the cannon. We've all seen it. It's no Zdeno Chara, but it's a howitzer. He gets himself in smart positions in the offensive zone, and he's a serviceable defenseman. But all that into the package that is Evan Bouchard, on this team, the Edmonton Oilers, that's going to outscore their problems more times than not, that is quite the player for the Oilers to have on the back end. And then he has to play Darnell Nurse and his bald head 20 minutes a night. And I'll say it, Nurse hasn't been the worst. He got caught in a couple pinches today, but boy, oh boy. I've been talking about this because this is period number 3. Forgot to change the screen there. But boy, oh boy. But how are you going to do it now needing to take at least one on the road in Florida, where the Florida Panthers have the last change? You had your advantages here in Edmonton. You had a very undisciplined start from the Panthers today. You had the matchups that you wanted. The Conrad McDavid started in the offensive zone. And hey, we saw Draisaitl and McDavid stapled at the hip today. Do you have to split them up just so you have some scoring depth? Do you have to shift the lines around, knowing that you're going to get line matched for the next 2 games at the very least? How do you address the fact that you need to take one in their barn to swing the series back in your favor? I really don't know what the answer to that is, by the way. Because there is no 2 players like Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl in the league. But you've just seen them both play 30 minutes a night. No, the Sportsnet broadcast, they were saying their 59-second shift average. Their average time on ice, 59 seconds. These guys are taking shifts over a minute at home. Are you going to expect them to do that in Florida? I'm not saying the series is over by any stretch of the imagination. But I am saying it only gets harder from here. And the guys with numbers on their jerseys that aren't wearing 97 or 29, or I'd argue number 2, are going to have to come up with some answers. And hey, we don't know. Stuart Skinner, he might not play. He finished this game. I haven't seen any media. I've been looking to see if he left the building in a walking boot or anything. But if that ankle injury from Sam Bennett falling onto his ankle is bad, that made with Calvin Pickard in that. Yeah, and I mentioned it. We see the bipolarity of this Oilers squad. Leon Draisaitl, 32 and a half minutes. Connor McDavid with a full 35. Evan Bouchard, 35. Way ahead of anyone else. Podkolzin, you played 5 periods of hockey. Congratulations. You played 12:45. You played less than most forwards in the NHL do in 3 periods. Kapanen, 14:39. What are you going to do? Are you going to be a 3-line team in Florida where they roll 4? Like the highest, Sam Reinhart, 30 minutes. Alex Barkov, 30 minutes. Under 35. Of course, I say that. Jester Boquist only had 8:41. Gagdevich had just under 9. But again, they don't have the last change. They don't determine, because as soon as they send that 4th line over the boards, you can guess 29, 97 are salivating. Can't do that in Florida. You just can't. And you're probably playing against the worst version of Bob you've seen in 2 years. Is that still one of the best goalies in the NHL right now? Yeah. But it's not the Bob that was standing on his head and stealing games last year. So, with all that said and done, do we have any questions in chat for the Calgary Flames fan who is just here to watch good hockey in the NHL? And as I said, we're getting some of the best. So if you and your friends want to go watch on Sunday, get to the Moss Pit. Get to the fun areas of Edmonton. Go to the Ice District. Go cheer on your team. go enjoy some of the best of this game we enjoy. Because I know I can't. I'm doing baseball. But boy, oh boy, enjoy this. If you're an Oilers fan, I'm sure you are stressed as hell. But enjoy the wonder that is this beautiful game. And before we go into overtime, if you want to support a company that's got numerous analysts, hosts, podcasters, whatever you want to call us, across this beautiful country, you can head on over to the Game Over Network Patreon. You want to throw us a few bucks. I know, hey, if you have done that throughout the season and want to take a little break over the off season, I understand. But I know I'm personally planning some off-season content. I know other markets have been discussing that. The NHL draft will be just around the corner. If your favorite team is not one of these two, we'll have the content for that coming in the off-season. Please head on over to our Patreon. You know what else can help? Hitting like, comment, subscribe, joining us in chat. Thank you so much. Fat Fungi, The Denim Man, Adam Firebear. And to everyone else who joined us, I know we had someone else, Jerry, who came in to say the rat got us. Got us? I'm a Flames fan, my dude. I'm just here because we wanted to have someone here to be here with you. To figure out what the heck's going on with the Oilers and how they can maybe push their way back. If you want to support some of the members of our Game Over crew, check out Avry. He'll be giving you all of that post-game coverage. We were supposed to have Wish on today because of all of the stuff that Avry does. We didn't get that quite today. He got called in to do radio last minute. I'm sorry, folks. But yeah, get out there. Go enjoy this. Because boy, oh boy, is it a fun time to be a hockey fan. I'm seeing no questions. I'm going to say who I think needs to be a game changer when this series flips over to Florida. I think it's Ryan Nugent-Hopkins who has a little bit to prove, has to play with that chip on his shoulder. Has to remember what that Game 7 loss feels like. And if you're the Panthers, you need Matthew Tkachuk to get on that score sheet. So there's your two players to watch going forward. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Game Over Network. Once again, my name is Conrad Krausert, one of our usual Game Over Calgary hosts. I believe Avry will be returning this weekend with Ash, potentially. But as I said, go out, cheer on your team at your local eatery or pub, and enjoy the hockey. Thank you so much, hockey fans.